Well, good evening. This is the second video that I've recorded today, the 30th of September, and this one may count as the one for the 2nd of October. I'm not sure if I'll do another one when I wake up tomorrow morning or not. If so, there will be two for the 2nd of October. But I'm going to actually post it today. As soon as I'm finished doing the processing, it will be put up on both YouTube and Facebook. The title is Special Report Before My Court Appearance. The day of reckoning for me is at hand. The alleged court known as the Circuit Court of the 18th Judicial Circuit in and for Brevard County, Florida, 2825 Judge Fran Jamieson Way in Viera, will hear PNC Bank's motion, Summary Final Judgment of Ejectment, at 9 a.m. by alleged Judge George B. Turner. The plaintiff has asked for 5 minutes for this to be railroaded through, allowing them to chase me and my family from the home I have occupied since July 2005. There never was a mortgage on this property, never a trial, never a foreclosure hearing, and never a single one, I forgot the word one, of my affidavits ever being rebutted. I better put one in there or I'll forget. The case was settled, I thought, in July 2012 by the Federal Bankruptcy Court in Orlando, and PNC is wantonly ignoring that settlement. Here's what's going on with me tonight. Please listen. Yeah, it's been a strange day. I visited the FBI this morning to file a criminal complaint against PNC Bank. And I spent over a half an hour, between a half an hour and an hour, probably around 40-45 minutes there. The man was polite. However, he did not encourage me at all, saying that it needs to be resolved as a civil matter. And I says, well, they're violating a federal court settlement. Well, that didn't seem to matter, although he did tell me that the person in the office who handles that would be back by mid-afternoon, would go over my paperwork that I left there and get back to me. Well, of course, that didn't happen. I will get back to them in the morning. I rushed home from that meeting to have a 2-hour past life regression healing session with a lady named Susan Davis, I believe. I'm not mistaken, from Daytona, Florida. It's something that she does. She's a life coach and a regression therapist and other things. And it was an interesting session. I had a lot of feelings come up, including bodily sensations. She encouraged me to let go of some of the programming that came out of that session. And what she says sounds really good, but it's really hard for someone that's facing a challenge like I'm facing to raise your vibration, Ron. Raise your vibration. You're supposed to be happy. You're supposed to be joyful. You've got to let go of this negativity, Ron. You've got to let go of it. Because as long as you're negative, that's what you're going to keep attracting. It was Abraham. Now, she said doesn't even know about Abraham, or at least that's what she said. She never listens to Abraham. But in any case, that's the message that many people give, and even the ambassador said that's good advice. Yeah, it is good advice. If I could raise my vibration, don't you think I'd do it? But I have to look at reality. What is reality? You say, Ron, the only reality you're going to look at is what has happened in the past. Yes, that's the only reality that I know. I know what has happened in the past. I know that I've been fighting this battle since July 2005 when the lawsuit was filed. The very month I moved into the house. Before I had been here a month, there was a lawsuit in place trying to take the house away from me. Before I was here a month. And in November, the judge threw out that case, or at least gave the plaintiff 20 days to amend the complaint, and my attorney did not file for dismissal till I ended up firing him, and it was 2 months and 6 days later, late, after the deadline that the judge had set, that the plaintiff, a different attorney for the plaintiff, finally filed an amended complaint, which has been in progress ever since, although I thought it was settled, as I said, in that plaintiff's bankruptcy hearing in federal court in July 2012, where they said on the record that they weren't taking my home, that they didn't want anything from me, because that's what they testified in the court, which I backed up with an affidavit. I believed that what they told me, and I agreed to the settlement, one of which says that no party can bring anything related to that trust or any action against me, including PNC Bank, could not bring any future action against me. The very same month that that thing was filed, PNC Bank bought my house for $100. July 31st. That was July 12th was the hearing. July 31st is when it shows up in the record that they bought my house for $100, and then a week or so later they bought it for $100 again. And I don't understand. One was a quick claim deed, and the other was some code that I don't even know, from some action that was behind closed doors, no doubt, because I never had a foreclosure hearing to begin with. And the so-called sheriff's sale that happened in February of that year was filled with fraud, and I filed an affidavit about the fraud, and nothing was ever done about the fraud, where the person who bought the house misrepresented who he was, and there was no competitive bids allowed. There was only one bid allowed. When I tried to make a bid, the gavel had gone down after the PNC Bank bid, who was claiming to be somebody else. But in any case, they didn't allow my bid. The gavel had already gone down. I said closed. They didn't allow competitive bids. It was no auction. It was a setup. This whole court thing on this coming Thursday, the 2nd of October, is a setup. It's a railroad job. The attorney has worked with that judge prior. Now, I sent my paperwork to the head judge, but the head judge is somebody that I filed charges against in federal court at the beginning of 2013, or actually the end of 2012, beginning of 2013. I filed a complaint against that judge and others in federal court. Now, that case went nowhere because I would not submit to the rules of the court, which made it possible for them to ignore truth and ignore the law. Law only had effect before the rules went into effect, and I would not allow the rules to go into effect. Anyway, what's coming up for me? By the way, I listened earlier to a video from a man named Chris. His YouTube channel is Bar None, B-A-R-N-O-N-E, 1-1970. That's 11970. And I thought that the video was very well done. He's doing just what I do. He's just talking to the microphone, and again, it's about the same period of time, 15 to 20 minutes video. And he had how to change the world for the better. And he says, we've been programmed to sit around waiting for the savior, waiting for the Superman, waiting for the person who's going to set us free. And he says, we've got to step up to the plate and do it ourselves, because nobody's going to do it for us. I've been looking for somebody to stand, not do it for me, but to stand with me that has authority. Because obviously, I don't. If I had authority, it would have been over in 2005 when the plaintiff did not respond to the judge's order to amend their complaint. Did not respond. It would have been over. I would have filed for dismissal. If I had been running it, I would have filed for dismissal, but my attorney did not. I had an attorney then, and then I hired another attorney. And all they both did is railroaded me, which is why I don't use attorneys anymore. Certainly I'm not going to pay an attorney, because all they do is steal, and it's total self-interest, and they take an oath to the bar, which means they don't care about the Constitution, they don't care about human rights, they don't care about the laws that they're supposed to uphold and defend and obey. They disregard them all. This is the reality of my experience. Okay? It's the reality that I've observed with others in their experience and hearing their testimony. PNC Bank not only is trying to steal my house, it stole the house of another friend of mine and his wife who lived in Florida, and now they're out west, they've moved, but their house was sold. They were also freedom fighters. Their house was sold out from under them to somebody in India, and PNC Bank sold it online, and they had already paid over $35,000, and PNC was returning their payments, not even accepting payments on their mortgage. Now, I never had a mortgage, so I never had payments. I never had payments at all, not the first one, because the loan that was taken out, which wasn't with PNC Bank, and this home was not put up as collateral, that loan was for only a 6-month period. And because of the lawsuit, I was unable to sell the property. And being unable to sell the property because of the lawsuit, that's no fault of my own. No fault of my own, I was unable to pay the bridge payment. But anyway, that loan has been, that note has been cleared. It's already been cleared. And folks, you may not believe it yet, but banks don't loan money and they risk nothing. The value, again, for those of you that have thick skulls and don't get it, the value is the note. The note is the negotiable instrument. That's the money. And the so-called borrower loans it to the bank so that they can multiply it times 10 at least through the derivatives marketing and through fractional reserve banking. They can multiply it. They now have in their assets something that they can loan against 10 times or more. Okay? And it's insured so that if something happens and the mortgage is unable to be paid, it's insured by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. And they get back, I believe it's 80% of the face value of the loan from the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. And it was collateralized in other ways. They sold it. It was sold immediately. Actually, it was sold before closing. They already had the buyers lined up because that's how the system works. It's all fraud, folks. It's all fraud. Now, how do I feel? Do I feel like the paperwork that I filed is going to mean anything to the court? I don't know. It's stronger than any paperwork that I've ever filed before. It is 59 pages. Are they going to read it all? I don't know. Is the judge that I filed a lawsuit against, the chief judge of that judicial court, of that circuit court rather, is that judge going to actually pay attention to anything that I've said in it? Or is the judge that's hearing the case, who is a friend of the attorney for PNC and has worked together with her before, is it just going to get railroaded through? I don't know the answer. What I would like is I would like to have somebody locally who is a justice, not a justice of the peace, a notary public, go with me so that anything that needs to be presented to the court at that time, I'm not doing the presentment. I'm there as a friend of the court, someone who's not involved, because I'm a living human being, and the whole thing is being done to the straw man. You may not understand that. Lots of people have trouble with that, but the straw man is not you. Even though it's your name, spelled in all capital letters, and all court things are all capital letters, and all capital letters only apply to dead people on their tombstone or people in the military. I'm neither in the military and I'm not dead. But they see me as dead. And if I claim to be Ron Van Dyke, which I will not do, if I claim to be that person, they will see me as making a contract with them. And I'm not there to make a contract with them. I'm not there to answer any of their questions. Any questions that come my way, what I have presented is sufficient. You need to respond to what I have presented in writing. Everything that you need is presented to you in writing. What are you going to do? Are you going to be just, or are you going to try to coerce me into and trick me into contracting with you? But I'm not the name. I'm not that person that you're trying to steal the house from. And that house is in a trust. And that house has a private property. It's the land patent has been brought forth from the Bureau of Land Management. All of these things. Now the FBI, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. The guy, it sounded like, you know, he was just playing down. I gave him I asked him to contact the ambassador who wanted to speak with the FBI, because the ambassador was the field manager for the Swedish equivalent of the CIA, and also an undercover agent, basically, for the Norway equivalent of the CIA during Obama's visit to receive the Peace Prize, which I understand now they're wanting to take back because he's obviously not what he's claimed to be. He's a warmonger, just like George Bush before him and all the other presidents. Okay? So what are we going to do? What am I going to do? I'm hoping that some of my friends show up for me in court to bolster my spirits and stand with me and be witnesses. I'd love that. But I know that most people are not going to get involved, because if the past serves as any indication, my local friends do not stand with me when I'm trying to stand up for justice and for truth, because most of them are of the belief that that's negative energy and you're pulling yourself down by standing up for what is right. I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way at all. But maybe I'll be surprised. And, you know, a half a dozen or a dozen or some of my friends might actually show up there. That would be wonderful. Will it happen? I don't know. I don't know. This is going out to the public. I liked it when in Britain they were trying to steal the house and over 100 people showed up in support and turned the court and the people that were trying to steal the home away. Now, I don't know what happened after that. Did they come back and make other attempts to steal the house when nobody was there to support them? I don't know how that worked. It would be interesting to follow up and find out some of those things. But in any case, folks, I want you to understand, all commercial mortgages are fraud, and all foreclosures and repossessions of homes by banks are fraud. The government is lying, the banks are lying, and the system is corrupted, and somebody has to turn it around. I wish I had the power to do it. If I did, I would. All I can do is stand in the truth and continue to tell the truth as long as I have breath. As long as I have breath to tell the truth. As long as I have the ability to sit before a camera, I will spread that truth to those who listen. And that's a choice too. Thank you, Chris, for your wonderful message. It was inspiring. But I am where I am, and I'm going to be honest as I've chosen to be all along, and tell the truth of where I am. I'm scared. I'm asking for help. And I thank you for listening. Namaste.